Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is the 2nd of March and as usual I have turned the camera on and realised that I need to get my fringe cut. Why is it I only noticed this when I turned the camera on to film? Anyway, last night I finished my first book of the month, which is The 10th House Vanishing by Rachel Donohue. So this also counts as my first read for the Irish Readathon because the author is Irish and it's also got green on the cover, so that's 2 prompts covered for that. So if you saw my try chapter tag, which I will put up here, you'll have seen that I was really excited to read this book because the prologue absolutely gripped me. And so I actually picked it up slightly early. I started it on the 29th of February, although I finished it yesterday, which was 1st of March, so it counts for this month. And I didn't love it. I felt a bit disappointed by it. So we are following 2 perspectives. We're following Louisa 20 years ago as she starts at the Temple House, which is a Catholic boarding school for girls. And then in present day, we're following somebody called the journalist who is trying to find out what happened to Louisa, who vanished one day along with her art teacher. And so, you know, the various theories are that they ran away together or that he killed her or something happened to her. So those are the 2 perspectives. For a debut, this is really well written. I felt like the sections written from the journalist perspective were a lot stronger, and actually on the back it does say that the author has had a career already basically in journalism or in communications, which is basically the same thing. So I think that's why that came across so well. It's beautifully written, it's very descriptive, it's very slow, it's definitely literary fiction. I was expecting more of a thriller or like a dark YA. And it's not. It's very much, it's sort of one of those books where it's almost what's not said is where the story is on the page. And I kind of found it a little bit frustrating because it has such a great setup and a great premise, and for me it just didn't follow through. And yeah, it was beautifully written. The epilogue at the end I really liked, but it was just all a little bit vague, which is not my favourite style of writing. I think also, whilst the setting of the Temple House was really vivid and that was really brought to life, like the kind of like coldness and almost menace of the building and the nuns and how creepy it all is was done really well, I felt like I couldn't picture any of the characters. Like there's very little physical description of any of the characters. Maybe I missed it, but I didn't get how old the girls were. The journalist, you get no description of them at all. I didn't even know it was a woman until the very end. And I find that quite difficult to get into if I haven't got a good grip on the characters. I almost need the characters more than the setting, but that's just my preference as a reader. So yeah, not quite. I was expecting it to be a 4 or 5 star read. The prologue was a 5 star. Unfortunately, the book overall I've given a 3, and that's my first read of the month. It's the 8th of March and I haven't finished a book. It's actually being kind of a slow reading month, but I did get some book post yesterday and I thought I would show you because it was a lovely gift from my wonderful friend Charlotte from Books and Bargains, and she sent me This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay. I've actually read this twice, once physically and once audibly, but I've never owned a copy because when I read it originally I got it from the library. So this was on my Amazon wish list and she was kind enough to send this to me, so I just wanted to put a little clip in here. I didn't film me opening it, I must get better at that. But Charlotte, thank you so much. Absolutely made my day. And now I've got a perfect excuse for another reread. It's the 10th of March and I finally finished another book this month. Pause for applause. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I am having a good reading month, but it's just kind of slow. I've got 5 books on the go at the moment and I'm like halfway through all of them. So I'm sure there'll be like more clips after this in fairly quick succession. But it's just taken a while to get anything finished. However, yesterday I finished The Lie by C.L. Taylor, which is my 3rd C.L. Taylor. I read The Accident last month, and I read Sleep last year, and I'm just gradually working through her backlist because they're all on Scribed, which I'm really enjoying. The audiobook for this was fantastic. The narrator was brilliant. There's only one woman reading it, but there's about a dozen characters and she does all different voices for all of them, so it's really clear who's speaking, and I thought she was fab. This story, we follow a woman called Emma. She works in an animal sanctuary in Wales, but it's clear very quickly that she is hiding something, and it then jumps backwards 5 years following Emma and a group of her friends as they go to Nepal on holiday, and they go to a kind of yoga retreat, and things basically go from there. I liked this. I really liked C.L. Taylor's style. Like I said, the audio narrator was fantastic, but for me it wasn't as good as the first one that she did, The Accident, because there just wasn't like any big plot twists or reveals particularly. It was, like I said, it was well done, and I guess there were some things that would be considered plot twists, but to me it was so obvious that was going to happen, it didn't really feel like a big reveal. So I've given it 3 stars. I enjoyed it, just didn't set my world alight. However, I have already downloaded the next book, which is called The Missing, I think, and I'm going to read that fairly soon, although I'm going to have a little break, and might come back to that at the end of the month. But yeah, I'm really enjoying her as an author. I've already, by the time you see this video, I've already put up a video about thrillers for beginners, which I will put up here, and I'd really recommend C.L. Taylor if you're wanting to get into thrillers, because they are clever and twisty and psychological, but it's quite low on like gore and violence. So I think it'd be good if you're looking to get into the genre. But yeah, really enjoyed it, and hopefully I will finish some more books shortly. It's the 12th of March, and 2 days ago Simone and I finished our buddy read, and it's taken me a couple of days to film this clip, firstly because yesterday was just frantically busy at work and I didn't get home until well after dark and didn't feel like filming, but also it's taken me a couple of days to kind of get my thoughts together, because I have never read a book like this in my whole life, and trying to work out how to explain it to you guys has been a bit of a mission. There goes the cat. Yeah, so it's taken me a couple of days to kind of formulate how to explain this book to you. I may well do a full review video on it, because it's just one of those books that's really caught me. So the book I'm talking about is Life After Life by Kate Atkinson. So I saw Simone talking about this in one of her TBR videos that she made at the start of the year. She's got several TBRs running. I think this was maybe on her big books or intimidating big book list, something like that. I will obviously link her in the description, and if you're not following her, you absolutely should be, because she's a gem. Anyway, she mentioned she wanted to read this book, and she was a bit intimidated because it's huge. It's over 600 pages. And when she read the back, I thought, oh, that sounds interesting, I quite fancy that. So I commented and messaged her and said, do you fancy a buddy read? And she said yes, which is fab. We have read together before, but always in a group. This was the first time we'd had like a one-on-one buddy read, and it was so good. It was so nice. Like, we chat quite a bit anyway, but it was nice to have like a proper excuse to message her every day, and we would talk about our thoughts on the book, but we'd also have a little chat about how our day had been, and it was a really nice time. I would really recommend a buddy reading with her. She's good people. She's good people. Anyway, this book is kind of tricky to explain and also really straightforward. So it's historical fiction. We are following a girl called Ursula, and we're basically following her from the moment that she's born up until she's an old lady. And that's the straightforward way of explaining this book, because basically the twist is that we follow Ursula through several possible lives that she could have or could have had. So it starts, I read a brief bit of the back. It says, during a snowstorm in England in 1910, a baby is born and dies before she can take her first breath. During a snowstorm in England in 1910, the same baby is born and lives to tell the tale. What if there were second chances and third chances, in fact an infinite number of chances to live your life? Would you eventually be able to save the world from its own inevitable destiny, and would you even want to? So it's very complicated, and the structure, I've never read a book like this that's got this kind of structure, because you start with one of her lives and then she dies as a baby, and then you start with a different life and she dies as a small child, and then it keeps resetting, going back to the start, and then eventually she starts to get older and things start to happen to her, and then she dies, or a member of her family dies, or something happens to a neighbour, and then it all resets and none of that's happened, and you see what would have happened had those things not happened. Does that make, I'm not sure if I'm making sense of this at all. It's absolutely incredible. I've given it 5 stars. For a book of this size that's got such a complicated narrative structure, the writing is just, it feels effortless. I didn't feel like I was having to struggle to read it. I think the only thing that Simone and I both felt is that we could have done with a character list at the start, because there's a lot of characters and you have to try and remember when the story restarts, you have to try and remember who they were and what happened to them before or in the other life, and then sort of follow along. But it's one of those things where if you just keep reading it, it does click in eventually, and I did get used to it. It also, occasionally you will start in a new one of her lives, but you sort of start in the middle, and it takes you a couple of pages for you to catch up and find out who these people are that she's now with. It was absolutely fascinating. It also it starts just before World War One, or the start of World War One. We then go through the interwar years, and then all the way through World War Two. During World War Two, she's a young adult. I think she's about 20, 21. And it's very, very vivid. We also interestingly get, in one of her lives, she ends up in Germany just before the war, and it's a look at the war from both sides, like not the political stuff, but the kind of like normal lives that people were leading. And there's a few chapters in this where it's the start of Nazi Germany, and that was absolutely fascinating because it was a look at how normal people viewed the Nazis and viewed them as a positive thing to start with, because they were bringing, you know, jobs and money and order, and they were like boosting the young people's morale and all that kind of stuff, which they needed after the First World War. And that was really, really interesting. And then this slow, like, creeping realisation of where things were headed, and I thought that was handled really well. I do need to give content warnings for rape, for sexual assault, and also for the realities of war. Ursula works in London during the Blitz, and she works pulling people out of the rubble. So there's some really graphic descriptions of dead bodies, and a dead baby at one point, so just be aware of that going in. But if you're able to handle those topics, I just cannot recommend this highly enough. I'm reading another book at the moment, which you'll hear about in a minute, which I think is going to be my favourite book of the month, but this is also my favourite. I just might have two books this month that are my favourite. This is incredible. I've never read another Kate Atkinson. It's my first one. I'm definitely going to be reading more, and I would highly, highly recommend this. It's still the 12th of March, and on my way into work this morning I finished my reread of The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. It's my second read for the Irish Readathon. Like I said, it's a reread. I've read it before. It's a play that I love. It's a very witty kind of social commentary, and there's a lot of like play on words and all that kind of thing. I listened to it on Scribed. I really didn't like the version that I read. The narrator was like really monotone, which made it quite hard going, even though it's only 2 hours long, because the play itself was really short. It's like 76 80 pages, something like that. So I wouldn't recommend that, but if you can get a good version of it, I would definitely recommend the play, because like I said, it's very clever. And I'm probably going to watch the film adaptation with Reese Witherspoon at some point over the weekend, because I've seen that before and that's really fun. And I think with plays, whilst you obviously can read them, I think it's better if you can see it performed, because then you can get all the kind of inflections and the way things are said much easier than if you're just reading it yourself. But yeah, that is my second read for the Irish Readathon. Very much enjoyed it. Given it 3 stars. I think it's just mostly because that version that I listened to was just really dull, which isn't really the play's fault, but that was my reading experience this time around. So it's going to be a 3 out of 5. And yeah, I think I'm going to catch the film at the weekend. It's 14th of March. I still haven't had my fringe cut, and we are symptom free at the moment, so we're not self-isolating, but we are basically hanging out at home all weekend and just having a quiet one. So hopefully there'll be a few clips over this weekend. But the first book that I finished this weekend is Lady Oracle, which is this month's Margaret Atwood for What the Book Club Read, which is the book club that I run mostly on Twitter. And we are reading the Margaret Atwood books in publication order. So this was this month's book. This is one that I've been really looking forward to. It's the third Margaret Atwood book, the third one that she published. It's a book I've read before and that I studied at university, but I've actually never gone back and read it just for pleasure. And it's a properly weird one. I was excited for it to come up, because the first 2 are very literary fiction, and Surfacing, which was the book we read in February, was very dry and was also a total bust, so I'm sorry if I made you read that book. This is one of Atwood's most playful novels. She definitely plays with genre in general in her writing, but this is a book where you can really see it, because this is literary fiction, but it's also references fairy tales and kind of plays with the form of storytelling. So we're following Joan, who is the author of a book of poetry called Lady Oracle, which is where the title comes from. And at the start of the book, she is in Italy, having faked her own death and run away from Toronto, where she's been living with her husband. and we then basically go back in time and follow her through her life, and basically she's talking about all the different people she's been and all of her different aliases and where they've come from and why she's had to adopt them. And then also at the same time we're following her in Italy as she tries to decide what to do now that she is technically dead. I've given it 4 out of 5 stars. It's very playful, like I said. You have to concentrate because it shifts around a lot, but I just love it. It's such clever writing, and it's got so much to say about women and the choices available to us and what happens if you take a certain choice. And yeah, to me this was a lot more successful than Surfacing. I've still got the group chat to have on Twitter at the end of the month with everybody, but from what I've seen of other people's reviews so far this month, I think people are liking it a lot more, which is massive relief. If you want to take part, by the way, the links are always in the description of all of my videos. Next month we are reading Life Before Man, and then also next month I think I will be doing the TBR for the next quarter, because we do it quarterly. So yeah, if you want to join in, please do. I also just want to say a massive thank you to Kat from Bruising Reviews. She sent me this beautiful edition. I am collecting the books in these like 1940s Art Deco style covers, and she sent this to me for Christmas, so thank you, Kat. It's a beautiful edition. I very much enjoyed reading it. So yeah, successful month for Atwood, I think. It's the 16th of March, and I clearly don't like filming on Sundays because I've got a few bookish things that happened yesterday that I need to update you guys on. So first of all, on Twitter, the lovely Steph from Steph Loves Books started an Amazon wishlist thread. She's also a booktube, but I will leave her link in the description. She basically started an Amazon wishlist like thing where people were leaving their Amazon wish list, and the idea was to have a little look through a few other people's and send a book out if you could, and to just try and spread some positivity and some kindness, because obviously everything's quite scary at the moment and everyone's quite freaked out. So it was just a really nice way of spreading some kindness. So I had a look through. I've actually ended up sending out 3 books. I got a bit overexcited to people. For me, I love having a look through people's Amazon wish list just to see what they've got on there. I personally will only send a book to someone if I've given it either 4 or 5 stars, because although obviously that's not a guarantee that they will love it that much, it's, you know, as close as I can get to being sure that they at least like it. Because I always feel bad, like with my book club, when I made everyone read Surfacing by Margaret Atwood and everybody hated it and I felt awful. So I always try and play it safe. So yeah, I sent a couple books out and it was really fun, and that was that. Then on Sunday, I got not 1 but 2 Amazon deliveries from people from that list, and it really caught me by surprise. I mean, I know I put my list in there. I didn't really expect anyone would send me anything, but I got 2 books. So first of all, the lovely Steph herself sent me A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. This has been on my wishlist for a while and on my TBR for a while, because it's one of those books I hear loads of people talk about on BookTube, and I've been on BookTube for like 18 months now, and I've learned not to give in to BookTube hype unless it's actually a book that I'm interested in. But this, I think, is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It's got this beautiful cover, and it's also got, look at the spine, oh, it's so nice. Yeah, I've heard loads of people talk about it, and it's a retelling, and I've not really read very many retellings, and I actually asked on Twitter, I think earlier in the week, if anyone could recommend me some good retellings, and clearly Steph was listening, because she sent me this, and in the note, which I always keep in the book, she said that it was her favourite book of 2019, so that's enough for me to be excited to read this. I always think if it's someone's favourite book, or one of their favourite books, I'm always willing to give it a go. That's enough of an endorsement for me to give it a try. So yeah, I'm really excited to try this. It's YA fantasy, in case you don't know. I've heard it's really fun and well written, and I'm excited to give it a go. So I got that one. And then I also got, from Connor, who's also a booktuber, again, I will link him in the description, he sent me this, The Innocent Wife by Amy Lloyd, which looks so intriguing. I've got a bad habit of putting stuff on my wish list and then forgetting about it, because for me, my wish list, I'm endlessly surprised when people send me stuff from it. And for me, it's more of a... Oh, sorry, I don't know if you could hear that. I think it's my neighbour slamming their front door. Yeah, for me, it's a place to like put the books that are on my GoodReads TBR, and then when I come to get to them on the list, they're already there, and I can just whack them into my basket and buy them. So I'd sort of forgotten that I had this book on the list, but on the front it's a thriller, and it says, "So you trust him, so why are you so scared?" And it's basically about a woman who marries a man, falls in love with a man who's on death row in Florida for murder. He is then proven innocent, or they think he's innocent, releases him, and then it says on the back, now you're married to him and he is free, his conviction overturned, but is he so innocent after all? So I'm really intrigued by this. I might read this later this month if I finish the rest of my TBR. So thank you so much, Steph and Connor. That was a really nice surprise and I really, really didn't expect it. So thank you very much, you made my day. And then I also finished a book yesterday, which is also a book that I was gifted. And that is The Manifesto on How to Be Interesting by Holly Bourne. My lovely, lovely, lovely friend, Nicole from Beautiful Castle Books, gifted me this when I reached 700 subscribers earlier in the year. Yeah, 700. I always put the Amazon note in the front. Yeah, so I finished this. I started it last weekend, but I've had like 5 books on the go, so it's taken me a lot longer than it usually would with a Holly Bourne. I think this is her second published book. It is YA contemporary, from a girl called Bree who wants to be a writer, and basically she decides that if she's going to be a writer she needs to have a more interesting life, and so she decides to try and get in with a popular clique at school, and it's about what happens to her. I have given this 4 out of 5. I've said this before, I think for me Holly Bourne suffers with comparison with Holly Bourne, because I didn't love this as much as some of her other books. I did, however, obviously really enjoy it. I do need to give content warnings for sexual assault. I'm also going to put a content warning for rape on here because it's never directly said in the book, but there is something that happens between 2 characters that made me incredibly uncomfortable to read, and that's the point. And it's not dealt with as though it's a rape scene, but when I was reading it, it felt like one. It felt like a total lack of consent, and yeah, I'm just going to put that on there. Also, content warning for self-harm, which happens throughout the book, so just be aware of those things going in. There's also a relationship in here. The reason I've given it 4 stars rather than 5 is because there are a couple of things I struggled with, and if it had been a different author I feel like it would have been maybe a 2 or 3 star book, because there's also a relationship in here that's completely inappropriate, and we're supposed to be on board with it I think for a lot of the book, and it is dealt with in the end, but it just made me really uncomfortable reading it, although maybe that's my age showing. But I really like this. I thought it was clever. As usual, she was really on point with the mental health stuff. I think it's just also the reason I can give it 5 stars. I didn't like Bree very much. She's not very likeable, and she makes these decisions. You just think, what are you doing? But then again, maybe that's my age showing because she's, you know, 16, 17, and I'm in my 30s. But yeah, I always enjoy Holly Bourne. This wasn't my favourite, but I still really enjoyed it, and thank you, Nicole, for sending it to me. It's still the 16th of March, but I have come home to an Amazon parcel, and so I thought I would open it and see, we can see what it is together. I did manage to get my fringe cut today, so that's something that I've achieved today. Right, let's see. Oh, no, I thought it was going to come from one then. There we go. Okay. Oh, there's 2 things. I'm going to open this the same way that Mary Among Stories does, where she tries to find the note first. Who's this from? Ah, I know they say you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but this one intrigued me. Enjoy, from Charlotte. And also, hi, lovely. I love this book. I hope that you enjoy reading it, also from Charlotte. Says my friend. I think from the surname it's a non-booktube Charlotte, but yes, if it's the other Charlotte, then I will link her in the description. Right. Ooh. Oh, this is very exciting. So first of all, The Museum of Extraordinary Things. Sorry if you can hear the cat eating in the background, by Alice Hoffman. I'm really excited to read this because she wrote Practical Magic and The Rules of Magic, which were 2 of my favourite books of 2018. So that's really exciting, and it's historical fiction. Also, it's so cute. It's a really like small paperback. And then the other one is Shutter Island by Dennis Lehane. I can't remember who I saw talking about this. Someone, shout me if it was you. I've seen the film, and someone said that the book's even better. So yeah, look how cute and small that one is. So yeah, thank you very much, Charlotte. That was really cute of you, and it's really made my day, so thanks. It's the 18th of March, and I've just finished No Exit by Taylor Adams. I saw Kat from Brews and Reviews talking about this in her wrap-up. She read it for Thrillerathon. It sounded really cool, so I downloaded it straight away from Scribed, and I've just finished it just literally seconds before I've turned the camera on. So it's a thriller. We're basically following a woman who gets stuck at a rest stop in America because there's like snowmageddon is happening. She's trying to get across the country to see her mum, who is dying of cancer. But she's forced to pull over into this, they call them rest stops, in like the middle of the mountains because the snow is just too bad. And she walks into the visitor centre, and there's 4 people excuse me, sat there basically. She then goes back outside to try and get some signal on her mobile, and she sees a child trapped in the back of one of the cars, and it goes from there. And that is all I can say without spoilers. I've been like going between a 3 and a 4 for the last sort of 2 hours of the audiobook. I'm gonna go with a 4 because I really like the way the ending went. I thought it was well paced. The main character that we're following, Darby, she makes some rubbish decisions, but realistic decisions, and decisions I kind of spent the whole thing thinking, what would I do? And I love those kind of books. And I liked how brave she was, and also she didn't suddenly like turn into like a ninja. She's just an ordinary, like, she's at college, you know, she's not a cop. So the way that she deals with things is kind of how I would expect a normal person to react. There's some good twists and turns. The reason I picked it up was because Kat said that it's basically got like a cartoon villain in it, and it does, and I really like that. I mean, he doesn't have like a twirly moustache and a cape, but he's clearly the bad guy from the start, and yeah, I liked that aspect of it. So yeah, I've given it 4 out of 5 stars. So solid thriller, pretty good. Content warnings: it is gruesome, so it is not for you if you are new to this genre. There were a few bits where, yeah, even I was sort of squirming in my seat because it's really visceral, some of the descriptions, and not to give like massive spoilers, but I had some feelings about my hand, let's just put it that way. Also content warnings for animal abuse, so just be aware of that before you pick it up. So not for the faint-hearted, not for the newbies, but if you like a good twisty thriller. It's also got that closed-in setting, and it was very claustrophobic, so I thought that was done really well. So yeah, 4 out of 5, another solid thriller. It's the 21st of March, and we are in basically our first weekend of like actual proper like social isolation. Not having the best time, but I just had a knock at the door, and I've got an Amazon parcel for something, and it's something big, so I thought I would open it on camera, because I haven't ordered anything, I don't think. So let's see what this is. Off in one go. Satisfying. Oh, it's the graphic novel of The Handmaid's Tale. Oh my goodness, who has sent me this? That's really, I'm like really excited. Oh, it's from Kat from Brews and Reviews. Hope you enjoy. I want to send you something nice since the world is so crazy right now, from Kat. Thank you. Oh my god, I'm really excited for this. This has been like, I wanted this for ages. It's by Margaret Atwood as well. Obviously, if you've been on my channel for 5 seconds, you know that The Handmaid's Tale is my favourite book, and I've been really wanting to read this. Oh man, I might just read this today. Thank you so much, Kat. I'm really, really excited. Okay, it's still the 21st of March, and I've just finished my next read for the month. I'm going to give a content warning before I even tell you what the book is about, because the book is about the content warning. Does that make sense? So I'm going to give a content warning for rape right now. So if that is not something that you want to hear about, then please just skip on to the next clip. I think it's going to be For the Wind and the Willows if my reading continues the way it has been today, so that'll be a gear change. So skip over this if that kind of thing triggers you or is an issue for you, because obviously I don't want to upset anyone. So this is your warning. Just wait for people to skip. Okay, the book I've just finished is Not That Bad, Dispatches from Rape Culture by Roxane Gay. Well, it's edited by Roxane Gay. I was given this for Christmas from my cousin Ella, because she knows that I love Roxane Gay's work. I've read everything she's written, and this is a collection of 30 essays from various people all about rape culture and their experiences of it. This has taken me 2 weeks to read, and usually if a book took me 2 weeks, that would be a very, very bad sign. But to me, it felt like I had to read this slowly because I wanted to give each story and each voice like proper attention. I didn't want to rush through it, and I just wanted to kind of sit with the stories that were being told by some very, very, very brave and strong people. Obviously, given the subject matter, this was really tough to read in places, and it's very graphic, so be aware of that. This is not gentle in any way. It's brutal and it's very honest, and it's one of those things where when I was reading it, it made me sad, It made me tired that this is the way society is, and it made me angry as well. It's one of those books that you just can't help but come away from feeling strongly about. So I've given it 5 stars. I will be amazed if it's not on my favourite books of the year, although not like favourite, it wasn't like a jolly old time, but impactful, definitely, very, very impactful. And yeah, I would really recommend this if the topic is one that you can handle, so just be careful. But yeah, if you can handle it, I would highly recommend this. It's still the 21st of March and I've just finished my next read for the month, which was The Wind and the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. It's one of these absolutely glorious Penguin V&A editions, and they're just beautiful. I love them, and I also love the way they look on my shelves once I've read them, because I am that shallow person and I'm okay with that. So this is a children's classic. It was written in about 1908, and it's basically a collection of stories about the animals on the river. So we've got Ratty, Mole, Toad and Badger, and it's just their adventures, and it was just lovely. It was the perfect antidote to the other book that I was reading that you've just seen the clip for. And it was a reread for me. I read it loads as a kid. My grandpa also used to read it to us, to my brother and I, when we were small, so rereading it again I could just kind of hear his voice in my head, which was a really nice reading experience. So yeah, if you haven't read this, it's an easy, lovely, gentle read. There's some beautiful nature writing in it. I've given it 5 stars and I'd really recommend it. It's the 22nd of March and I've just finished my next read for the month, which is Jekyll and Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. I was sent this lovely edition from my wonderful friend Simone, from me, Simone and I, so thank you Simone for sending this. It was on my Amazon wishlist and I'm reading it for something that hopefully I'll be able to talk about soon, although with everything that's happening it might be that that doesn't happen. I don't know. Anyway, I was reading this for a life thing. It's a reread for me. It's a classic. It's written in like 18 something. Let's just get my facts straight before I start. 1886. And I'm sure you probably know the story, but it's about Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and basically Dr. Jekyll's lawyer starts noticing weird things and a murder happens and he's trying to work out the connection between the two men, and it is about that. It's super short. This edition is just over 100 pages, I think, 106 pages. So I flew through it. It's really good. It's quite creepy. It's definitely in the kind of gothic horror genre, I guess. I've given it a 4 out of 5 only because I think the end gets a little bit waffly, and also I would have preferred it if it was told from the perspective of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde rather than an outside observer. But I also know like this was written around the same time as like Frankenstein and Dracula. There's the word I was trying to look for. And that was the style of the time. So yeah, if you're looking for a quick, easy, really readable classic, I would definitely recommend this one. It's the 27th of March and we are in the middle of a super weird time. So up until now I've been going to work every day because I was required to by my bosses. Today we've been told to stay at home whilst they try and set up work from home for us, so I'm literally just like, my laptop's just there and I'm literally like refreshing every few minutes to see if it's working yet, and it's not, and it's now about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so it's a bit stressful. However, I didn't come on to talk about that. I decided with everything that's going on that I wanted something easy to read via audiobook. So I picked up The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang, and man, I loved it. It is absolutely not at all my kind of thing. It's a fake dating scenario in which a woman who has Asperger's decides to hire an escort to help teach her how to be a girlfriend. And it's a contemporary romance, so you know, it's not a spoiler to say they fall in love, and it's about their relationship and the secrets that he's got and family dynamics and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's really not my kind of thing typically, but I absolutely adored it, and it was also perfect for this weird time where I just needed something kind of gentle and easy and not scary and just nice to listen to. The audiobook was also excellent. I'd really recommend that. Do need to do a content warning because it has got some very, very graphic sex scenes, which is not something I read a lot of. It doesn't bother me at all, but it's not something that you get a lot in thrillers. So just be aware of that going in. It's definitely an adult book. And yeah, I just thought it was really sweet. It's got some really great conversations around consent and like repeated conversations around consent. Also, safe sex is just the norm. There's no discussion about them using condoms and stuff. It just happens, which is fantastic. That's what we need to make it normal, and just to make it, you know, the way of things. I've given it 4 stars instead of 5, only because I didn't love the ending. I did love the ending. There was a few things that happened towards the end that made me slightly uncomfortable, and it does have the trope where the guy basically like makes the girl magically better, which I find a bit frustrating, although she does it for him as well, because he has some issues that he's carrying around. And I realised that it's that thing of like, when you meet the right person, you're able to kind of be yourself, and then some of the ways that you deal with it will get easier. But I don't know, it just veers veering slightly towards the, you know, he turns up, all of her issues disappear kind of thing. So giving it 4 stars, absolutely loved it. I think it's part of a trilogy, although it's not like direct stories. I think the next story is a character that we met in this one, and then the third story is a different character that we also met in this one. But I definitely want to spend more time in this world, and I really, really enjoyed the writing. So if you're looking for something cute and funny but a little bit sexy, I would check it out. It's 31st of March, and I actually look reasonably presentable from the waist up today. I've got I'm now finally working from home, and we've got our first Zoom call in about an hour, so I've actually like washed my hair, put it in a ponytail, got like shirt on, but I've also got Mickey Mouse leggings on. Anyway, I've got 2 books to talk to you about. So first of all is a book that I finished reading, and then another was a gift from a lovely friend. So first of all, the book that I finished reading was also a gift from a lovely friend, and that was The Switch by Beth O'Leary. If you saw my 1000 Pages Readathon vlog, which I will put up there if I've still got any left, or down in the description, the lovely Sarah from My Bookworm Life, who is on Bookstagram, who I would highly recommend. She's one of my favourite Bookstagrammers. She got a proof of this. She read it and loved it. She knew that I had really enjoyed The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary last year, and she was kind enough to send me the proof. It's a really nice proof. So you've got like, Eileen feels too old to start over, it's time for, and then inside her front door is the book title, which I don't want to like bend back too much, but then also on the back it's got the same thing. Lena feels too young to be stuck, it's time for The Switch. As a proof, it's a nice one. Not that I've had many, but it's very nice. Also the story, which is why you're watching this clip. So basically we're following Eileen and Lena, who are grandmother and granddaughter. Eileen is 79 and is feeling kind of stuck in her small village life. Her husband left her about 18 months ago for another woman, and she's kind of got this feeling of like, well, my life isn't over yet, but I don't know quite how to do it. And then, so that's Eileen's cover. And then Lena is in her 20s, late 20s, living in London, working in marketing, and she is struggling with her mental health following the death of her sister about 18 months before. And she is also feeling kind of stuck and needs to basically reset and work out, both of them need to work out what's important to them. So they swap lives. So Eileen goes down to London and moves into Lena's swanky flat with her flatmate, and Lena moves up to a little village in the Yorkshire Dales and gets involved in village life. And I loved it. I've given it 5 stars. I will read anything that Beth O'Leary puts out. I also gave The Flat Share 5 stars. It's a little bit like Holly Bourne in that it's gentle and easy to read, but there are really important messages running underneath it. So we've got discussions in here around mental health, grief, loss of a family member. We've also got discussions around domestic abuse, and how to spot that. Like, Eileen is fantastic. We don't often get older protagonists, but she's just fantastic. Like, I absolutely loved her. She did actually remind me of my grandma, which I think is why I connected with her so much. But yeah, I just thought it was fantastic. It is a contemporary adult fiction, so there is romance in both storylines, but the romance is definitely very secondary. It's more about both these women working out where they are in their life, where they want to go, the things they want to change, and also coming together closer as a family. And I thought it was fantastic. So yeah, I've given it 5 stars. And this will now be going on to Charlotte at Books and Bargains, because I know that she would really enjoy it as well. So Charlotte, this is coming your way as soon as I'm allowed to go to a post office. And then I got a knock at the door yesterday, and I had an Amazon delivery, and I didn't open it on camera because I thought it was something that I'd ordered, but it wasn't. It was a present from the wonderful Faye at Mystery Date with a Book, who sent me Girls with Sticks by Suzanne Young, and I am so excited to read this. I've already picked my April TBR, April, I was just trying to remember which month we're in, my April TBR, but this might have to just be squashed in there somewhere as well, because I'm really excited for this. First of all, Faye, thank you so much. She sent it with this really lovely Amazon note, which as always I've put in the front of the book, which just says, "Thanks for always being there for me. You're amazing, from Faye. Miss you, date with the book." Which is very nice. And yeah, I'm glad I've been able to support you a bit lately, Faye, but also you are just the same with everyone else, so thank you for being so lovely. This I'm very excited for. I don't want to read the back. I've heard a few people talk about it. Chloe from Chloe Reads Books, and I feel like also maybe Lauren from Lauren and the Books have both read this. I might be lying about Lauren. Chloe definitely has. And they both really, really enjoyed it, and I think it's like a dystopian YA. From what I've heard, it sounds a bit like Only Ever Yours by Louise O'Neill, which is one of my favourite books of all time. And it just said, all I'm going to read on the back is, "Some of the prettiest flowers have the sharpest thorns," and I am so down for this book. So thank you so much, I'm very, very excited about that. So that's been a really wonderful end to my month. And those are all the books that I read in March. It's been a pretty good reading month. I finished 12 books, which totaled 3,938 pages, which is 127 pages a day. And I had an average star rating of 4.08. So it was a good reading month. Everything else went to hell. This is the first video I filmed since the coronavirus stuff got really bad. All the other videos you've seen from me up until now were pre-recorded in February. When it was an issue in other parts of the world, but it hadn't reached us yet, and now we are in basically lockdown. I'm working from home. I'm just sat at in my spare room on my lunch break, filming this clip, and things are pretty scary, and I'm not quite sure what's going to happen, but I personally am just trying to take things one day at a time, and a little bit at a time. Reading is helping. I can definitely feel my reading slowing down, so I've got no idea what my April wrap-up will look like, but I guess we'll find out. But yeah, in terms of March reading, I had a great time. I gave out 4 5 stars for like 4 very different books. So The Wind and the Willows got 5 stars, which is obviously a children's classic. Life After Life got 5 stars, which is a historical fiction / like family saga type book. Also not that bad. Curated by Roxane Gay. This is a non-fiction essay collection on rape culture, and also The Switch by Beth, which is an adult contemporary sort of romance, adult contemporary. So 4 very different books, but I think my book of the month is going to have to be Not That Bad by Roxane Gay, or sorry, edited by Roxane Gay, because it was just so impactful, and I know that it's one that I will carry with me and that I will be recommending to people if they're able to handle the topic. So that's my book of the month. I hope you've enjoyed this wrap up. I have no idea, like I said, what my April wrap up will look like, but I guess we'll find out. Thank you so much for watching. Anything that I've mentioned during the video will be linked below, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks guys, bye!